Welcome back to another episode of Grizzly True Crime. My name is Gisela K, and today we're going to be looking at updates in the case of Kylen and Crystal. If you don't know anything about this case, I do have a playlist. I'm going to link it for you in the description box, in the pinned comments below. I've also before interviewed Crystal's family. So if you want to watch that, that was very interesting as well. This is a terrible, unsolved double homicide case. Two women who were in love, camping out, they had their bunny there, a tent. I mean, for a long time, we all suspected that Brian Laundrie had something to do with this because, ironically, Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie were in Moab, as we saw them on the body cam footage on August 12th. And now it's been confirmed, which we'll see in a moment, that Kylen and Crystal were shot to death on August 14th around 11:30 a.m. in broad daylight. So this was not nighttime. This was not some creepy guy sneaking up at them as the sun set. No, broad daylight. And apparently, according to the PI, screams and gunshots were heard, because we all wondered that, because there was a wedding happening at the Whispering Oaks Lodge at the time. Now, if you want to catch up on this case, as I say, please watch the videos I've already made, because we did a deep dive. We did a full map time and everything. This is an update that I'm offering now based on what Court TV has shared, and it's very, very interesting. So let's get started. Thank you so much for joining me over here today. I hope that if you are brand new here and this is the first time that you are watching one of my videos, that you'll consider subscribing and becoming part of this fantastic community. If you want to suss it out, just check out the comment section. The Grizzlies are always very kind, very respectful. We tend to cover true crime in quite an empathic manner, which means we break everything down piece by piece, chunk by chunk, little by little. You know, in bite-sized little bits. That's not too overwhelming or too graphic in nature. So I hope that if you are new here, that you will enjoy this video today. And of course, if you are a returning Grizzly, then welcome back. Let us have a look what Vinnie Politan, who we love, don't we, has to say here in this update.
This hour, we've got a major update in a case that we have been tracking, a case that we've been asking for your help in solving. It's a case involving newlyweds who were shot and killed in Moab, Utah. When I say that word Moab, you probably think of Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie. That's where we got that body cam footage of that couple when they were there. Coincidentally, right around the same time they were there, Kylen Schulte and Crystal Turner were shot and killed. Now, Lauren Steinbrecher, great reporter with our affiliate KSTU in Salt Lake City, Utah, has more on this story for us tonight.
With positive vibes and nothing but joy in her smile.
So just for those of you who don't know or you want to recap, this is a picture of Kylen Schulte. She was married to Crystal Turner-Beck, as her family refers to her. They'd only been married for a few months, and they were just living their best life. They were living the van life. They were camping, free-spirited. Kylen was working at the Moonflower Co-op, which I'm sure you've heard of if you followed the Gabby Petito case. That is where Gabby and Brian were when there was a fight outside of the Moonflower Co-op on a day when they were selling literally melons. Melon boy, literally. That's where Kylen worked. And she was very loved by everyone that she knew. And Crystal worked at McDonald's. And they had a motorbike, they had a van, they had another car, and they went camping in their usual spot. This spot, right near the Whispering Oaks, right near the Whispering Oaks Wedding Lodge, was a regular camping spot for them, according to the families. And so I find it very, very strange that the police didn't find their bodies, because Cindy Sue Hunter actually drove out to the spot a few days later, and she was the one, unfortunately, to find Kylen and Crystal shot to death. at this campsite.
To Bridget Calvert, her niece Kylen Schulte was a ray of light.
Her having such a beautiful soul, to see it complemented with someone like Crystal, that they could really enjoy life and do it together.
Kylen and her wife, Crystal Turner, got married 4 months ago, loved living van life, and called the outdoors around Moab home. Many people knew the couple around town, which is why when the two were no-call, no-shows to work, it was clear something was wrong. The family, all out of state, say police searched, but it wasn't until an acquaintance drove out to the South Mesa area in the Sal Mountains that they discovered the horrifying news.
She was on the
As we know, the police chief in Moab, I don't want to say has been fired, is moving on. Other police officers had been suspended for a bit. So I don't know if there's like botched police work, but I just find it very, very strange how in such a small town and where they knew Kylen and Crystal camped regularly, that they say they drove out there and found nothing. Because the minute that Cindy Sue Hunter, a family friend, drove out there, she found their tent, she found their car, she found their bunny still in its cage. Thankfully, it had survived, possibly because of all the rain. That's what they say, that at least the bunny had water. The bunny is okay. And she found their bodies. Oh, man. Kylen's body was in the creek, and she said, I'm so sorry for any graphic information, that her arms were kind of contorted in a weird position. It was just horrendous, and Crystal's body was found nearby. A double homicide of someone riddling them with bullets and no one knows who did it? Wow. I do feel that this case will be solved very soon. I don't think it's going to go cold. I don't think it's going to remain unsolved. I think it will be solved very soon. And yes, most of us will, of course, be surprised that Brian Laundrie had absolutely nothing to do with it. Not even a tie to the person who did it. That's going to be very interesting because I know we all suspected, including myself, that he had something to do with it based on the timing, the evidence and everything. However, it seems like it really is someone completely different. So we need to focus on that and not keep on saying Brian Laundrie, otherwise they'll never catch the killer, you know what I mean? So if you have any dash cam footage, any footage whatsoever, any memory, if you saw anything and you were in this area around the time, August 14th, around 11:30 in the morning to noon, please come forward and say something. That is what families are absolutely waiting for. The police, families, the private investigator, that is what they need. So remember how Red, White, and Bethune shared the footage of Gabby's van? I mean, that so much helped the case. It absolutely helped to find Gabby's body. And it is my belief that Brian Laundrie went home, drove the van home, went camping, and was acting kind of, sort of nonchalant based on what we know, because he thought that her body would not be found. So the minute that Red, White, and Bethune came forward and actually, we have footage, wow, of where Gabby's van was parked and all of that. My goodness. Yes, it helped to find Gabby's body. So if you have any footage, any information, please contact, put all the details below, contact someone, say something. It could really help in this case.
On the phone with my brother when she pulled up to the car. She looks at the site and sees a body and tells my brother that he sent a text that said it's Kylen and Crystal.
The Grand County Sheriff's Office confirmed the two women were shot and killed, they believe, by someone else.
The evidence that we've gathered at this time, that's what it's led us to believe was an isolated incident.
That's all they can say for now. Bridget explained how friends told them the couple mentioned a man creeping them out near their campsite.
Saturday that they met up with, they said they were going to go move. They were going to pack up and move their campsite. That it was like he was still creeping them out.
The family is hoping someone can help them find answers.
What is very uncomforting is that there 100% is a murderer on the loose.
A murderer who took two lives away, but the family says will never put out the light, the love.
And yet, so there's a murderer on the loose that was in Moab and could be elsewhere now. This is an unsolved case. That is a scary thought, and yet, no one in Moab is talking. Man, I hope no one else's lives are in danger, but the way that these beautiful women were murdered, I'd be worried, wouldn't you?
Of Kylen and Crystal.
We're going to let their love light shine, that they had the most beautiful love, and that light is not stopping.
So here you can see the information who killed Kylen Schulte and Crystal Turner. If you have information, call 435-259-8115, the Grand County Sheriff's Office.
As I mentioned at the top, we've got some new information tonight, and this may very well focus the information that investigators need and who may be able to help find this killer tonight. Let's bring in our guests. Joining me tonight in Redlands, California, retired police commander, host of the Profiling Evil podcast, Mike King is with us. He is down there, bottom right. Also in Salt Lake City, Utah, the private investigator hired by Kylen Schulte's family, Jason Jensen. He is right next to me. And with us in San Francisco, California, Kylen Schulte's father, Sean Paul.
So you got who's on the panel there? We've got Jason Jensen, the PI, top right, and we've got Kylen Schulte's dad right here.
Also with us. Welcome to you all. Thank you for being with us. Sean Paul, our deepest condolences to your family. We've been covering the story from the beginning, hoping to help you find an answer and get the justice, but really we feel so, our deepest, saddest condolences for you tonight. But I want to begin with your investigator, Jason Jensen, who folks are very familiar with on our show here. Jason, I understand there is some information tonight that makes this much more precise in where we are focusing our attention. What can you tell us about the murder of Kylen and Crystal tonight?
Sure, yeah, I'd love to. I mean, for months now, we've been talking about a date range from the 12th to the 14th and really asking the public to, come forward with any video or anything they may have collected over that time period. But now we've had an update where we're more focused on just the late hour morning of the 14th, which was the Saturday of August, where what we're hearing, we've been hearing rumors for a while now that that there was, at 11:35 that morning, there were gunshots heard and screams. So we didn't know whether to accept that, to believe that or not. But this morning, from a more reliable source, closer to the case, we've heard that indeed that was what was being collected. So now what we want is anybody that was in the mountain, those Sal Mountains that day, specifically around the noon hour, they may have traveled by this guy, and maybe there was an erratic driver or somebody that cut him off, or something bizarre about another vehicle that was bizarre that caught their attention. Regardless if there's video or not, we would like them to come forward and describe the video.
Regardless if there's video or not, even if you just saw something strange or just thought, I was driving the other day, I did see, just describe the car, describe what you saw. If you were in Moab at the Sal Mountains, in fact, I'm going to do some map time right after this. If you were there and you saw anything around 11:30 to noon-ish, that type of time, August 14th, 2021, oh man, you got to come forward and say whatever you saw.
Describe the vehicle for us.
This is huge. Sean Paul, your thoughts tonight and looking for help from the public, in what type of information you are looking for.
Benny, thanks for doing such a great job of covering the case. I watch you all the time. I respect you and your show. Thanks for doing this. I do appreciate it. The family is kind of a little bit shocked to find out the timestamp today. Okay, that's news to us. So emotionally, it was a very trying day today for myself. As far as what we hope to gain from this new knowledge, it's to fine tune our search criteria so that the millions of tourists that pass through Moab can fine-tune the time that they're trying to look for a vehicle or dash cam footage, etc. So, I had assumed this whole time for 6 months now that it happened in the middle of the night.
We all did, right? That seems to be the most plausible outcome, but oh, I've got goosebumps now. 11:30 in the morning. Broad daylight. There's got to be someone who saw something. I mean, Jason Jensen, the PI, said that shots and screams were allegedly heard. Possibly from the wedding venue, right? So someone must have seen something.
And now we know it was the middle of the day. Absolutely.
Broad daylight.
Broad daylight. It's scary, and it's disturbing on many different levels. Jason Jensen, before I get to Mike King here, I know that you also shot some video for us. As we take a look at it, tell us what we're looking at, and again, remind folks who may be watching tonight what we are looking for. Let's take a look at that video. We'll roll that video, and you tell us what we're looking at. I think we have it. There we go. Go ahead, Jason.
This is drone footage from a Twitter account user that has been really close to the case, has been following along, doing a great job, really getting the word out there. His handle on Twitter is Del2000. And what this is actual aerial footage. In the lower right corner, we had just passed the actual crime scene. And this is just a skyward view of the surroundings. You can see that is the county road that travels nearby. And it really shows the mountainous, the really isolated nature of this case. And right here in the lower corner is where the crime actually occurred. So not much happens here. And now we're coming up to the main, the LaSalle Loop Road. This is the road that most of the travelers would be traveling on. There, for instance, is a camper going up towards Geyser Pass. And if you go to the right from here, would actually be to the Whispering Oaks Ranch, which is where a wedding on the day of the 14th was occurring. See, and this is another angle. This is as you come down towards the camp where that fifth well is about the location where Kylen and Crystal's Kia Sorento was parked. And then just over to the left of there was their tent. And then to the right of that second clump grove of trees is where we believe.
Look how narrow the creek is. It's extremely narrow. I think they said it's like 3 foot wide. And unfortunately, that's where Kylen's body was found, in this creek.
Believe that the creeper dude was camped at.
Mike King with us. He's not in Utah tonight, but that's where he usually is. He knows all these areas very, very well. Mike, your thoughts tonight about this new development, the time of day, 11:35 in the morning, this double homicide takes place. The significance of
that is very specific. Remember that there was a rumor going around that they have satellite imagery of this incident, and they just weren't able to release it to the public. I found that very interesting. That actually kind of fueled my belief that it could have been Brian Laundrie, but maybe they just actually saw something that they can't release to the public because maybe it's, of course, horrendous. So 11:35 in the morning is very specific. It makes me feel like they probably do have some sort of satellite imagery, right?
Of that to you, and do you think that could help the public in, hey, listen, oh, wait a minute, I was there around noon?
It absolutely can help the public in trying to go back and look at video that they might have in their vehicles, GoPros if they're out hiking, or folks like this drone pilot who happened to be up catching information. Now, the thing that's really interesting to me, and Jason is to be credited for really bird dogging this thing, is that 11 o'clock in the morning is something that would be more significant because of the organizational level of a crime like this. And of course, the way that that crime scene looked and some of the things that we've been able to see and talk about would really suggest that it was a pretty disorganized crime scene. Things fell apart pretty quickly, and what happened didn't fit this fantasy that the predator had in mind when all of this happened. What this is going to really mean for us in the community is that this offender most likely left the area in a disorganized manner, probably really driving quickly, erratically. One of the things
Very interesting. Some people have speculated that this double homicide could be related to the Delphi murders. I've covered that case as well, so check out those playlists. Delphi or Evansdale, because those were both two females. Those were just children that were murdered. But that was very organized in a way. From what we know, we don't know all that much because the police don't release much. But from what we gather, it was highly, highly organized. And here they're describing that this killer left the scene in a very disorganized fashion. So it to me seems it could be unlikely, right? It's pretty unlikely that they're linked. However, I always keep that little percentage there of like, maybe, we don't know. That would be scary.
I noticed in Jason's video was that there looked like there were good cell towers in the area. So I suspect that there was good broadband connectivity that might be helpful in also being able to capture and share. So the question is,
it's so beautiful there and so peaceful. Look at it.
Will people go back and re-examine if they were there on the 14th, all of their video, their home photos and video, and see if they come up with something that just kind of gives them a little bit of an itch? And if so, turn it over to the sheriff's office.
And everybody who was at that wedding, please check your phones, make the call. You may have seen something. I want to go back to Sean Paul. Sean, explain, and this is what I ask a lot of family members to do in this part of the program, but I think it's important. Explain to folks watching tonight what it would mean for you to get that answer, that someone tonight maybe goes through their photos, their videos on their phone, and they see something and they find something and they make that call that helps catch a killer.
I can't put it in words, Vinny. I cannot put it in words how much it would help me start to be able to move forward. This is 6 months of torture. It's every day I have to relive this. If someone came forward and said, oh, heck, at high noon on Saturday, there was this guy, I thought maybe he was on his cell phone and he was looking at his cell and he almost ran me off the road, and he describes a vehicle to someone who just kind of stuck out in their mind that, wow, right about high noon, geez, we were going up the mountain to go goof up at Warner Lake and we saw a car come around the corner, pretty crazy. Well, what was that car? I mean, it would mean the world to me. I can't even tell you, Vinny. I can't express to you how much that would do for me and the families.
For those of us who never met Kylen, we've seen the amazing pictures from what must have been a really amazing day for her. Tell us a little bit about her and
You mean the pictures from the wedding?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, Kylen was great. She was really sweet. She was very attentive.
This poor man also lost his son.
Kylen was a professional at listening. She actually paid attention to what people were telling her, and then she recalled it. So she was a treat to visit with. Crystal and her had an incredible relationship. They really blossomed together. The two of them combined ended up with the strength and power of three people. It's amazing to see this kind of a relationship for me, you know, I can only compare it to my parents, but I mean, Kylen and Crystal's love is something that you only see it once in a lifetime. Definitely it was short-lived, but it was a super bright light that, you know, we hope it won't go out.
We all hope it won't go out. I mean, it is so sad how short-lived their story was. Their love story.
Mike King, the host of Profiling Evil, and I bring that up because it could only be evil that would do what was done that day. Broad daylight to take the lives of these two women who just get married. They're living an adventurous life. I mean, you can tell how happy they were. And then living, it was the first time I was introduced to the van life, that, hey, you know, you don't have to live a traditional life like everyone does. You know, they wake up, go to work and do all that. But, you know, you're in touch with nature. And to take that away, this is someone that is out there now today, and from my perspective, is extremely dangerous as they come.
Oh, holy
Did you see everyone nodded, including the PI? He's like,
cow, I have to agree. And it is so important that the community, especially the community around that market, the McDonald's, that hiking area and that camping area, really think about the personalities they were coming across, because this is an individual who is really angry, for one thing. I mean, this was very personal. It was over the top in the assault itself, and there's a level of anger there, Vinny, whether it has something to do with the same-sex relationship, or something to do with the environment that they're in, or mental illness, or drug-induced. As law enforcement picks this thing apart, they're going to come up with those little interesting pieces of information that help them as they look at this broad pool of possible suspects that I hope they have. And as they look at the behavior that was used in this the commission of this crime, the way in which it was committed, the location, the level of organization, like I talked about earlier, I think what we'll see is that kind of like a gold panner sifting for gold, that as they sift through the behavior and the physical and forensic evidence, that someone will rise to the top. But without the public stepping in on this one, it's going to be a really tough challenge.
And so you see why some people are comparing this to the Delphi case. I can understand, because like, we need the public's help. I mean, imagine the small possibility that it is linked. That'll be so shocking. I also wanted to say that a lot of you sent me the links to Court TV covering a possible suspect in this case. The reason I didn't cover that was because the police in Moab had actually released a statement before Court TV released their episode. I'm sure that episode was scheduled to release at a certain time, and they're like, you know, they're just going to go with it. But just before that, hours before, because I watched this case like a hawk as well, a statement was released from the police to say that suspect has actually been ruled out. So even though this person was extremely dodgy, so shady, so friggin' what, they ruled him out as a suspect. So I was like, okay, well, that's why I didn't cover it. Just in case some of you are wondering, why did I not touch on that? And now it's time for some recap on map time. Okay, so here is a Google Earth. So here is the Whispering Oaks Ranch, which is where the wedding happened, which was very, very close to the campsite where Kylen and Crystal were. So if we just orientate ourselves, like that. This is the area in which Kylen and Crystal were camping. This is the creek in which Kylen's body was found, and Crystal's body was not found too far from that creek. And the wedding it happened over here at Whispering Oaks Ranch. Now, if you want to see where Moab is, I'm going to zoom out for you. So if you look, here's that window arch. The Spanish Valley is where everything was. The Mesa Arch. These all must sound familiar to you based on where Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie were. The Arches National Park. Remember that? Sal Mountains, you see, and Whispering Oaks Lodge. So I'm zooming out for you so that you can see everything. And if you want to see Moab like this, that is where Moab is. So the Sal Mountains, Moab's right over here. This is where Kylen and Crystal worked and had parked their motorcycle and their van, and they actually went up in their Kia Sorrento, camping here in the Sal Mountains. Okay, so if you look at the distance, it's 12.56 miles. It's like just over 12 miles from Moab, and I'm just putting it there at Moab Central. I mean, we could take it from here or whatever, but around 12 miles away is where they were camping. And they had told their friends on August 13th that there was a creeper hanging out kind of too close to them at this campsite. He was really freaking them out, and they said, if we end up murdered, it's because of him. So what does that tell us? I always ask, there is no amount of victim blaming or shaming that happens on this channel. We do not tolerate that. The question is, what can we learn from this? And the lesson I take is, if you feel like there's a major red flag, and you really feel like, if I get murdered it's because of this person, you need to get away from that person, right? You need to do everything in your power. Now, I do believe they did. They said they're going to move campsites, and I do believe they slightly shifted their campsite from all the information I've heard that they moved. But man, if someone is freaking you out that much, and really your gut instinct is telling you, oh man, even though this may feel drastic in the moment to take this massive and determined action, like do it, it could save your life. We have to listen to our gut instinct, and we have to be mindful of those red flags. Well, thank you so much for tuning in today. That is the update for now that we have, that Kylen and Crystal were murdered. They were shot to death at 11:35 on August 14th, 2021. Their killer is still on the loose. This is an unsolved double homicide. If you were in the area, if you know anything, please contact the numbers that are provided below, as well as on Court TV and everywhere else that Kylen's father has spoken, as well as Crystal's family who spoke here on this channel. If you missed that episode, please check that out. I will link it below as well for you, because that was also very interesting to learn a lot more about Crystal. So thank you for watching. If you are brand new here, I hope that you will consider subscribing now if you enjoyed this episode. And if you are already a Grizzly, please do hit the thumbs up. I would really appreciate that if you also left your comments. Keep them kind and respectful. Oftentimes family members watch these episodes, so please bear that in mind as well. And I will see you in the next one.